So please welcome Gellyahnah Aakhen to the show. Welcome, Gellyahnah.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome, all the way from Arizona. And okay, so like I said before we hit record, someone reached out. I love when people listen to a podcast and then we become friends and then they give me somebody's that they found and they found you and said, "Oh, please interview Gellyahnah." And I thought, okay. So then I start going down your rabbit hole and I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you for introducing me to you and learning about these soul contracts and just the power of understanding your soul contract and knowing that you're on purpose in your life. And I mean, I'm 55 and and I'm listening to how you talk about the ages and how important the 7-year cycles are. So I'm reflecting back on that. And I know you did my soul contract, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. But it's just it's amazing to realize that we do plan our life. We do plan our soul's mission in this and our people in our life. And it's just, you've opened my eyes. I've understood a lot of that in my 55 years of life and what I've been learning and all that. But you put the microscope on everything. And that's what I've found so fascinating. So let's go. I know you've been a spiritual seeker your whole life and successful in the network marketing company an entrepreneur.
Yeah, it was business networking company. Yes.
Yes. So kind of go like where you started to go, I'm going to start. I mean, when you turned 35 and all the things, like where do you want to start to where you feel like you started to uncover your magic?
Okay. Well, you know what? Since you threw it all the way back, then let's start there. And again, I just want to say it's such an honor that somebody reached out to you and asked for you to reach out to me. So whoever that listener is, just a big thank you from me. um, but yeah, let's talk about what happens when we turn 35. And I'm happy to express how this worked out for me because it's always easier to see in retrospect as well. Not when we're going through it. So for me, I launched my first company when I was 27. And this was a business networking company, right? Where I would host events and people would come and, promote their business. And it was this little idea that blew up. My now ex-husband was my business partner back then. He's a brilliant software guy. So he took my idea and my personality and he built software around it. So when we launched this on January 1st, 2008, right when the economy started to crash, I had no idea the economy was about to crash. I mean, I was
Right.
27, right? Just following my little hobby here. We launched it and but it went viral before we knew what going viral on the internet was,
Huh.
right? But that's just what happened. Looking at my soul contract, that's part of my quote unquote 12-3. It's just this big energy that like we don't do anything small, even if we want to, it just doesn't work
Huh.
for us. It's just burnout that just comes with it. So we launched this company and it did really well. So my first 7-year cycle, because we're talking about 7-year cycles, that first 7-year cycle of having that company, everything was incredible. I mean, I couldn't even believe that I had this little idea. We launched it, it was successful. I'm going to fast forward to the next 7-year cycle. Okay. So around 35, my divorce came through. Okay. And mind you, I was with my ex for 17 years. I met him when I was 17. So
Oh,
come 30,
wow.
yeah. So come 34, now I am on my own for the first time in my life as an adult. And I have a 3-year-old. And I am now with a company that was a dream that turned into a nightmare. And not only did I just, my husband and I split up, but he was my business partner. So I lost my technical CEO. I lost my software guy. So it was just to say that it was a complete deconstruction of my life would be an understatement, but that's literally what it was. My life was being deconstructed. And of course, it feels like this free fall. And I willingly went into this. Like I knew this was going to happen. The divorce needed to happen. Him and I are amicable, but it was just, we needed to go through this. But still, it was just, so it was like whoosh, the entire infrastructure fell apart. And I was 35. So, okay, that's
Right.
usually when it begins. So 36, 37, I get into more more karmic relationships, just, because what happens is when you're not waking up on your own, life is going to send you situations and people to help get you there. So because I was still in my ego consciousness, and ego consciousness is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to have ego, but ego consciousness is, it's very dominant that first part of our life from 0 to 35, which makes sense. We need to learn how to live on planet Earth, right? Like there's rules, there's societal rules. We need to learn the structure here. Ego consciousness is good for that. But past 35, if you're not open to stepping out of your ego consciousness and following your soul's desires, again, life's going to come around and smack you. And I was getting smacks over and over and over because I was in resistance. And I refused to let go of this company because my ego just could not handle it. Right. I mean, if you can imagine, my entire identity was tied to it. It was very public here. I had over 40,000 members, and this isn't Instagram followers. These are local people that would come to my events and knew me. And so I was like, how am I going to walk away from this? Who am I without this company? Right. I had to go through this entire deconstruction and rebirth of my identity, which takes time, doesn't happen overnight. So around this time, again, because of the divorce, I started to go deeper into my own healing journey. And while I've always been connected to the spiritual, as I say, like when I would go to the mall with my friends, they would run to Abercrombie and Fitch, and I would run to Glyphics. I don't know if anybody else had Glyphics at their malls. That was like the psychic bookstore, and like the numerology and the incense. And I mean, I was obsessed with that store, right? So I had all the books on astrology. I had handwriting analysis. I mean, I was into this stuff before, we even knew to be into this stuff. So my entire life, I was called to this. So when the divorce happened, I was hurt, because that's what happens during divorces and all the karmic relationships that ensued. And so I went on this healing journey, and it was one door led to another. And I started to find myself deeper and deeper into the spiritual work. So to fast forward, at 38, I discovered this work. And 38 is another crucial number in this 7-year cycle, because 3 + 8 is 11. And in this work, 11 is the sound frequency of complete deconstruction and rebuilding from our truth. Now, I carry this frequency in my chart. So for me, it was extremely pronounced. That's why it was like 35, like, let's go, right? But come 38, this was the final year of where life wore me down so much that the only thing I could do was literally lay on the floor of my apartment and surrender. There was like nothing else I could do. I mean, I was sick. I was adrenal fatigue, just all of it. My body literally gave out. And one night I discovered this work. And the moment I saw an interview with my teacher, and the moment I saw the interview, I had an entire physical experience. Every single cell in my body was like popping off. It was just, something was happening, and it was like, pay attention. And I felt like waves going through me. I'm like, what is happening right now? And I'm watching him, and I'm watching this work, and I'm like, I need to get more information on this. So that night I went down the rabbit hole with this work pretty intensely. I mean, here we are, like, rabbit hole. I don't know what another word is. I mean, to say it was life-changing to discover this work again, it was beyond life-changing. It was my soul's calling, my soul's purpose. So at 38, I start doing these readings on the side as I'm running my other company. Okay, this is important for anyone going through this age time right now, because I still don't know how to let go. I still don't quite know how am I going to make money with this. Mind you, I actually have an entrepreneurial and business background. So I, of all people, probably could figure it out. But here comes my ego saying, who do you think you are? Right? Happens all the time. So 39 happens. I'm going to fast forward to the morning of my 40th birthday. And this was just 3 years ago, because I just turned 43 on May 20th. Oh, wow. So literally 3 years ago, I woke up on my 40th birthday, and every single sense was going off: my hearing, my feeling, my intuition, everything at once. And it was this message of, if you do not step into your soul's purpose, we're going to send you trauma. And again, it wasn't like we're going to send you trauma, but life's going to keep doing, this to you, kind of
Right.
slapping you around because now you're going to be off your purpose and you're not as protected. So me personally, I've had plenty of trauma in my life. I know for some people it doesn't happen until they're older. They have these amazing childhoods. I had enough trauma to say that I'm not interested in any more trauma. And, creator doesn't speak to me so loudly very often, even with my intuition, it's not usually
Huh.
this loud. So there's no way I wasn't going to not listen to that message. So what I did was at that time, TikTok was popping off like crazy, right? That was one of the years of the
Right.
TikTok boom. So I got on TikTok to talk about soul contracts. And before I knew it, my videos were going viral over and over. And I mean, it was just unbelievable. So I woke up one morning and I was scheduled all the way through the end of the year, right? So this is like June timeframe, right? May, June,
Mm-hmm.
July. I was scheduled out through the end of the year. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, if this isn't a clear sign, I don't know what is. So I immediately put up my other company for sale. I sold it. And I went into doing this full time. This was the smoothest transition of my life. I could have not, I planned it better, and I didn't plan it. All I did was actually surrender and follow what my soul was saying to me. And here's what I learned afterwards. I didn't know this back then either, but everything up until 40 is research.
Right.
40 and above is when life really begins. Okay. And Carl Jung said this. So this is not me making this up. Carl Jung said this, but also what I've discovered, 40 is a transformational number, and it's mentioned a lot in sacred texts.
Hmm.
Right. So to give you some examples, the Jewish people wander the desert for 40 years and
Oh,
40
right.
nights, right? The human gestation period is 40 weeks. I mean, there's all these references in the New Testament, the Old Testament, to the number 40.
Mm-hmm.
It's a transformational number. So 40 and above, if you're not in your soul's purpose, you're going to be very unfulfilled. Okay. And you
Interesting.
really are meant to be stepping out of the ego consciousness into the soul's desires. Okay. So I'm going to pause. I know I just said a lot, but that was
Well,
that was the launching pad.
yes. And I want to ask you something. So I'm reflecting when you're talking about age. I didn't meet Richard till I was 35, got married when I was 36, had Paige, my first baby, at 37, and Presley when a week away from being 40. So when you say I was in my soul's purpose, was that being a mom? What do you mean by that? Like, where would you say that with me?
So our soul's purpose is usually okay, there's a number of ways to look at that. So let's break this down. First off, your soul contract, the one that I focus on is the soul contract you have with the creator, with God, with universe, all that is, right? Everybody has a different word that they use for this. Um, that is the soul contract that your soul makes with the creator, saying, I am going to incarnate to earth in this lifetime, and here's what I'm going to correct within myself, and here's how I'm going to contribute. So that is your soul contract for this lifetime. Now, having had this mission, we also have free will. So
Right.
this is where a lot of souls don't accomplish what they come here to do because they go off their path.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's very easy to come down here and get caught up in things that aren't in our highest and best good. We're human, right? And this is part of the human experience. Nobody judges us for this except our soul once we pass, right? So
Right.
the soul is actually that looks at its life and says, boy, did I mess up. I need
Huh.
to come back immediately to fix this, right? That's what most souls will do. So as far as you having a soul contract with your children or your husband, this is a different type of a soul contract. And when people ask, who do I know who I have a soul contract with? You most likely have a soul contract with pretty much everybody you've come in contact with in your life. And sometimes, it could be the most random soul contract, like not random, but, you just meet somebody at the store one time and you were there to just give them, say the right thing to them at the right time.
Hmm.
Right.
Like
So
with you, are you, are you and I that? Because we're talking right now?
we could be, yeah. And I don't necessarily, so these charts, again, they don't tell me. So a soul contract like that, you would be more, an Akashic reading would tell you more of who you have soul contracts with like that and why. And that's the Akashic readings is when we look into past lives and soul connections. I don't do that, at least for others. Have I done it for myself? Yes, but that's not my go-to, right? This work is my go-to. This work I innately was already attuned to. And then I discovered this methodology, right? Because for me, I always can tune into somebody's soul the moment I meet them. And now I can have a way of explaining to people in visuals what I'm seeing. So
Right.
I'm going with my natural ability here. It's the soul connection. Do you and I have a soul contract? It's actually very possible that we do.
Okay. Because
And
I
then,
was, well, it's like I connect with you, right? Like I've interviewed, we're in the 200s now. So over 200 podcast episodes. And when I know who I connect, like I get excited when I'm preparing. I can't wait to read a book of someone, it's like, I can't wait to watch every YouTube video. And I can see a difference in ones that I really, really connect with. And I connect, that's how I felt about you this last week doing that. So that's what I was wondering, like, because you were saying people in high school, you might not still talk to them, but they were still part of your soul family. You're in your soul contract. You guys came together to have that experience. Right? Is that
absolutely.
so
I
the
was like, wow, you
feeling?
really did watch my videos because that's literally the example I give with the high school. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we've gone there, we need to explain how you get this soul contract. So you send your name and it's the frequency and the sound frequency. Can you explain to people this whole idea of soul contracts?
Absolutely. So the methodology that I use is all based on sound frequency because sound is extremely powerful when it comes to creating our reality. When I do my readings, I give people two examples that I'm about to give you. So regardless of your belief system, your background, we've all heard the most traditional biblical story where in the beginning, there's literally nothing until God starts to speak things into existence. So of all the ways God could create, it's through sound. In the Hinduism tradition, we have the Om, which is the sound of creation. And it said that the whole universe was created from this one sound. So we have two different cultures, two different traditions telling us everything stems from sound. And these are the two examples I give because people have heard of these. There are many more that not so mainstream. So the premise here is that the sound frequency of your birth name creates your entire reality. And so what I'm doing is I'm taking somebody's birth name and I'm decoding the sound frequencies and I'm decoding it into Hebrew because Hebrew is one of the sacred languages of pure vibration of source. So I'm not converting it into English. I mean, most people that give me their names, it's written in English, but we're converting it into the Hebrew sounds. And then once I take the sounds, I put them around a Merkaba. Now, a Merkaba is it looks like a Star of David. It's, one triangle that's facing down, one triangle that's facing up. This is a sacred geometry symbol. So
Right.
it has its roots, in sacred geometry, but we take the Merkaba and based on the placement of the sound frequencies, I'm able to see the karma that somebody brought into this lifetime, their unique talents, their goals, and ultimately, what is the overarching soul purpose, soul's mission of this entire incarnation?
Right. So we pick our parents, we pick our name, even if the name is misspelled on our birth certificate, it's still exactly what the soul intended.
Yes.
We're up and we're with in this other dimension and with our soul before we come on into this human experience, having a meeting with God, deciding what we need to do to expand our soul. It's all about expansion and clearing the karma, healing, right?
Yes. Yes. It's about because the soul always wants to grow. The soul wants to ascend. And it's actually much easier to correct So heal karma, clear karma, correct. That's all sort of the same concept. And it's easier and faster for the souls to do it while incarnated in a body than if they tried to do it in the astral, right? So here, because it's so emotional,
Right.
right? Because we feel emotions here and it could be painful here. We can actually move through things much quicker than up in the astral. Because up in the astral, all you experience is unconditional love. So how are you going to
Right.
work through abandonment issues if all you feel is unconditional love?
Right. So when you think, you marry a narcissist and you go through this pain and that person is your biggest, like almost loves you the most because he decided to come and give you this biggest lesson.
Okay, well, sometimes, but I also want to say not everything is so black and white.
Okay.
Okay, so yes, in some cases that could be what's happening. In other cases, it could be that you went way off path and got together with the wrong person.
Mm-hmm.
That literally could be what's going on. Either way, that wrong person is probably trying to get you to wake up and, stand in your power. And, if they're abusive to you, you shouldn't be with them, which means you're choosing yourself, which means you're getting closer to your soul's purpose.
And you say, so would that be clear, like you going through that and forgiving that person, just healing your own wound? You're healing your soul. Even if it wasn't you've used your free will and went on this other path and had that experience, but you still healed it. That's still healing your soul's karmic wound.
So what happens when two people get together and there's this traumatic experience between them? Either they are working through a karmic connection, and I see those very frequently, or they're generating karma between them, right? So what the soul wants to do, the soul actually wants to heal that so it never happens again. And you are correct. Not only so when you can actually heal your own karmic wound and forgive the person, because remember, forgiveness is for you, and we can talk about forgiveness. We can energetically forgive the person. You're actually letting go of the karma, and only one person has to do it.
Mm.
When one person forgives, there's no energetic tie. And so now you no longer have a karmic connection with that person, which means you don't have to come back in another lifetime and try again.
Right.
So, because I think again, I broke it out because there's two things that are happening. Yes, your own karmic wound is getting healed when you do the healing.
Right.
And if you can reach the forgiveness, you're healing the karma between you and the other person.
Right. Got it. Okay. If there is no time and it's all happening right now, when I look at it from this perspective, is just a fragment of my soul in this body trying to do certain things, and another fragment of my soul is somewhere else doing other things to expand and clear the karma.
Yes. And you would be the one to ask this question because you have this 22-4 frequency in your spiritual talents. And these people are extremely multidimensional. So, for instance, I'll just ask you, do you have vivid dreams?
Very.
Okay, there you go. So, people like you with this particular combination, they're so connected to how multidimensional they are that they remember their dreams, and they're usually nightly travels. They're not
Okay.
just dreams. So this is where you're visiting other parts of your soul, or you're going into different dimensions. Like it's for people with your combination of this 22-4 and you have 10 ones, very common.
Huh. Because, when I've been learning from you and I'm thinking, I'm trying to wrap my head around, time and understanding it from our linear human mind. And, it's like, in past lives and, all the things that we've gone, learned, like it's not past, it's happening now. We're just clearing. So when I look at it like, this, we're all, I don't know, like these little octopus things coming down, experiencing all this at one time. And we're just here to clear it all. So the past and the future are cleared. I mean, isn't that's why we come here in our soul's mission is to do that.
Absolutely. And I love that you're saying that these are very elevated concepts that you're talking about. And I love that you're talking about this. And this is something I stress to people all the time. When you do your healing now, you heal the past and the future.
Right.
So yes.
And can you tell in a soul's contract if it's an old soul or a um first timer?
The charts don't usually tell me that. I mean, there are some frequencies that I would associate with older souls, but again, just because they have that frequency doesn't mean that they are. So I typically try not to go into, are you an older soul? Are you a younger soul? My focus is when I'm in front of a client is my goal is to understand what it is they're here to do and how do I give it to them in a way that they understand, right? Because
Okay.
everybody has a different way of grasping information and everybody is in a different place in their journey. Some people, they literally only need to hear me say one word that they've heard their entire life and have never said to anybody else out loud. And here's this stranger on the internet who gives them that same word. And they're like, okay, that's it. Like, I don't need any more validation, and then they go off on their path
Right.
because they already know. And this is what I find with most people, Ashley, is people actually know what they're here to do. They
Mm-hmm.
just don't trust themselves. They don't believe that it's that easy. Right. I
Right.
mean, take me as an example. Like I said, my whole life, even as a kid, I was into this stuff. And I mean, small kid, like I remember 5, 6, having these like feeling. And now I know it was all intuition. Like back then, I just didn't even know the words to put on these things. But I was always into the mystical. And if somebody, in fact, when I was 34, I sat in front of a psychic. I went to a psychic fair and I sat in front of her, and I was looking for advice with my relationship at the time. And she looks at me. And the first thing she said to me was, "You're sitting on the wrong side of the table.
Mm,
You need to be doing readings for people."
I love that. You're like,
And I
hell
thought to
no.
myself, right, exactly. I'm like, I found the kooky one. I'm like, out of all the psychics here, I picked the kooky one because at that moment in time, it was not at all in my sphere of this is what I would be doing. Full on knowing I had the gift and the capabilities, but not at all trusting myself or feeling worthy enough, right? Anything of that sort. So I find that most people know they almost need the nudge or they need the validation. And that's the biggest thing that I find that most people get from the readings is validation.
Yeah, I bet. You know, I was listening to something about how we are up in the astral realm with God and we decide our death. We decide our death, but the rest, there's different points that we could choose. How does that work?
Yeah. So that's part of the soul's planning process, right? So when the soul is planning its life in any given incarnation, again, it chooses the name, the birth date, the birth time, the parents, the siblings, where it's going to be born, what it's going to look like. People don't like that one, but the soul chooses everything, including the exit points. And there's multiple exit points. There's not just one, right? And you've probably heard stories from people where they'll say, I swear I was supposed to die that day. I just know I was, and somehow I didn't.
Right.
And that literally could be an exit point. So, yeah, the other thing that I've heard is when the soul completes its mission and what it's supposed to do, a lot of times it can choose to leave. And I think this is where people out of nowhere very peacefully just die in their sleep. Just
Mm-hmm.
makes no sense. But if they're done, they're done. And the soul, because souls aren't afraid of death. They want to go back home.
Right. He,
So,
when I met Richard, he always was like, we're soulmates. He always calls this was a interesting story. I'd bought a Hallmark card, like 3 to 5 years before I met him. And it was called My Soulmate. And I read it because I said, I'm going to manifest this man that's going to think of me this way and vice versa. So I would read it every morning having coffee. And I met him and we'd been dating for like 3 months and we were getting ready to go to Hawaii and he comes over and he gives me a gift and a card. And it was that exact card.
wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I know it by heart, right? But how explain soulmates? Because I've I dated a lot before, had to, I am you're raising a daughter and I'm raising two daughters and I'm trying to say, you got to kiss a lot of toads, before find the right one. But it's like that knowing, is it again, that knowing, or is it just, how do you describe that soulmate, or you talk about twin flames and all that?
Yeah, okay. This is a really big topic. So let's break it down. So first off, we all have a lot of soulmates. And soulmates aren't always romantic. Sometimes this will be your best friend. Sometimes this will be one of your siblings. Sometimes it's your childhood best friend that you met and you just, right? So, and then there's times where they are romantic. And just because you have a romantic relationship with one of your soulmates doesn't mean this is the soulmate. Okay, I'll give you an example. I'm a great example here. The guy I married, I met him when I was 17. Pretty much the moment I looked into his eyes, I was like, whoa, he's for me. Like I just had this, again, feeling. I couldn't explain it to you at 17. I didn't quite have the words, but I could, like I had this ability where I would, and I had a high school boyfriend before him. And it was like, I remember looking in his eyes. I'm like, I know he's not for me. I'm like, I don't know how else to explain it like that.
Huh.
When I looked at my my now ex-husband, I looked in his eyes and I'm like, he's meant for me. And it's just, I just knew it. There was this depth, there was this connection, there aren't words. Now we spent 17 years together. We accomplished wonderful things. We have a beautiful daughter. What I can tell you now in retrospect that I didn't know back then, he is my brother soulmate, like legit, like him and I are like this, but more like siblings. So when
Huh.
I met him, it was this immediate recognition because I've done many lifetimes with him. And again, now what I know is that he's usually my brother or my child. And so there's this very strong bond between us that's like, it was undeniable, right, when we first met. But and what happens with us humans, we confuse that for romantic love, because what else would you
Right.
put on that, right? Especially when it's somebody of, like of the opposite sex, or whoever like you're into is, but you meet them and it's like, well, whoa, like that's clearly meant to be a romantic partnership here. And not to say that we weren't supposed to do what we did, but I bet you there was another option for me that I didn't take. I took the option of marrying him and having this, beautiful life with him, and until it wasn't so beautiful anymore and we had to part ways. What I also know is we all have multiple soulmates. And so the soulmate that's going to match me with really what I'm supposed to do in this lifetime, because our divine soulmates, they share we have a joint mission.
Oh, huh.
And that's also another way to sort of look at, am I in the right relationship? Because the right soulmate will actually be supportive of you on your mission. The wrong one will derail you.
Interesting.
Okay. It doesn't mean they're not a soulmate.
Right.
It just means they could be a karmic, that you're here to work things out. Maybe they're here to wake you up. Sometimes they're really just to force you to choose yourself and leave them.
Right. When you look at people, that everyone's a reflection of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we're all one, and I'm looking at you and you're looking at me, and you're reflecting back me to you, like back and forth, because I always know in a relationship, especially like when there's a trigger, there's something, it's in me, right? Like we're all in this hologram, right? Like so we're all up there choosing, we're all together. We usually have the same family. Like my daughters could be my mother's in another life somewhere, but usually we're all connected, or no?
So yes and no. It doesn't, just because you're connected to your daughters doesn't mean you do every lifetime with them. You could do a lifetime with them and then not do a lifetime with them for another 300 years. Or you could constantly keep reincarnating together. This is where the souls get to decide. There's, again, no black and white rules around this, because a lot of it depends on what you're working through, how you're connected. I'm trying to give a good example. So here's an example of where a soul will reincarnate to an unloving mother. And the question becomes, why would anybody ever choose to come to an unloving mother?
Right.
And there's a few answers. One of the answers I give is that on a soul level, we all love each other so much. And soul contracts are always made with love. Souls don't say, oh, we're going to go down there and like beat the crap out of each other. Like, no, souls are like, okay, I'm going to help you work through this and you help me work through this. And let's do our best to realize this and heal through it. But we get down here. And as we know, life on earth is not always so easy. And, if somebody is like an abusive mother or a mother that's, has addictions, a soul might say, you know what, I love her so much. I'm going to come in and try to be her light. Maybe if I can show her light, show her unconditional love, like the way nobody else has ever loved her, maybe she'll see another way. Right. And so the soul will choose to come in. And it could happen that way. It could happen where the mother actually changes her ways, and it could happen where the mother doesn't change her human ways. Again, this is where human free will comes in, and we don't actually know how it's going to play out. The soul's taking that chance because the soul loves the other soul, right?
Right.
So another reason why a soul could come into an unloving mother, just since we're already on the topic, is because sometimes a soul will choose the mother that's going to, and when I say mother, I also mean the parents, right? But choose the mother or their parents that are going to help the soul the best on its mission. Again, let's say you were born to a mother who gave you up for adoption. And so your entire life, you have this abandonment wound. And because of that, you end up fostering kids and being like the best foster parent and giving them the most stability, or adopting children, right? So, and that's what you were here to do, but you would have never done that if you were born to, a loving mother and you didn't know
Right.
anything about being abandoned or adoption or anything like that.
Right. We've been talking about this as we're going through this ascension on this planet, and we're moving into the 5D or whatever, 5 frequency. And the veil is thinning, and, the amnesia we have when we come here, makes us forget everything. And so, yeah, it's like we're at ground zero trying to figure this life out. As we expand and move into the 5th dimension and the veil thins, do you look at it like there's certain people that when they do come back, it'll be a little bit thinner and they kind of get their mission, or is it always going to be this amnesia?
I think we always have amnesia, because if we didn't have amnesia, it would be, well, first off, what's the point?
Right.
Also, can you imagine remembering all your past lives, right? Like
Right.
coming to a mother who murdered you like 3 lifetimes ago. Like, no, that's it's not the way. This is where it's the laws of the universe. And I don't think the law of the universe, just because the veil is getting thinner, is going to change and we're all of a sudden going to remember. I think what's happening is we're seeing a lot more high frequency souls coming in, because the more higher frequency a human body is, like we as the female vessel, we can carry higher frequency souls. And so higher frequency souls are coming in, and they're a lot more connected naturally. So even though they have amnesia, they're like waking up quicker. Like some of these kids, they have I look at their karma and they've blown past it. They're like, done. What's next?
Wow, I love that. Amazing. Let's look at my soul
Your
contract.
chart. You got it. All right. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, I need to.
All right. I got
Did
it.
it work?
Yep.
Okay. Perfect.
Let me know. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. So for those of you that can't see this visually, again, what we're looking at Ashley's birth name. So her full birth name. So first, middle, and last. And underneath it, there are the sound frequencies that are connected to each letter. And then we're looking at her chart, which is a Star of David with frequencies and symbols in it that make no sense to her right now, but I will explain it all to her. So the first thing, again, when I do a reading, the first thing I always tell people, I explain to them the triangle facing down this is where we get all the physical aspects of our life. So physical karma, physical talents, physical goals. And when I say physical, I don't necessarily mean the physical body, but I'm talking about our worldly, earthly, human experience. And this is that ego consciousness of 0 to 35. This is what we're born into. And Ashley, you and I have the same physical karma, by the way.
Oh, huh.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, I'll explain to you in a
Okay.
second. I'll explain in a second. So, and then the triangle that's facing up, this is the spiritual aspects. So this is your heart and soul's desires. This is what you really came here to do. And again, these are the frequencies that start to come online much louder around the age of 35. Now, people often ask me, oh, does that mean that the triangle facing up, like we don't feel any of that when we're younger? And then once we are 35 and above, we don't feel the other triangle? The answer is no. You feel everything all at once, but 35 and above, you're feeling the triangle facing up in a much more powerful way.
Got it.
Okay, so this is the map. Now, okay, so let's look at your physical karma. So the physical karma being a 7-7, what does the 7-7 mean? The keyword for 7-7 is to heal and open up the heart. So the 7s are heart healers. And so, when I said I have the same karma and you ask, well, what does that mean? So I don't know how your life played out, but for me, I had a lot of heartache growing up. And I used to tell people I have a PhD in heartache because it came to me at all different angles, starting from a young age, not just romantic relationships, but part of what we're here to do, the 7s, we are here to experience heartache, to learn how to heal our hearts and then turn around and help others do the same.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
Okay, so do you feel that was your experience?
Yes, 100%.
All right, good. And I don't subscribe to the, heartache PhD thing anymore. That's because now I've done enough healing where I'm actually very in honor that I came here to do that. And I understand that I had to go through my own heartache of every possible kind imaginable, because now when my clients come to me, I can relate to all the heartaches, especially all the women coming in with karmic connections. I am like the queen of karmic relationships. So I understand them, because a karmic relationship is not like your typical relationship. And if you've never experienced one, you cannot explain it to somebody else. So,
yes.
But yeah, that's the 7s. Also, we're connectors. We are meant to bring people together in groups for the purpose of them healing.
That's me. Yes,
so with your podcasting and with the retreats you were telling me, and I used to have that big networking company.
I love that. Yes,
so you see
I love that.
Even though we have the same frequency, it plays out in different ways, but we're here on a similar mission with certain things. We bring people together, we connect them, and we connect dots for people. Right. So have you noticed when people are talking to you and you're like, well, have you thought of it this way? Have you talked to this person? Here's this resource.
Yes, I do that.
Yes.
I'm like, everyone's like, you're just the connector. You're the magic connector.
Right. And you really are. And that's what you're supposed to be doing here. And also, have you noticed how people just open up to you and start telling you things that they wouldn't tell others?
Yes, it happens a lot on the podcast. They'll say, I've never said this on a podcast before, but I'm going to say it now. a lot. And I'm known for that. People will say, gosh, Ashley, they said things all the time. Like, I've never said this before. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And that's because of the 7s, because the 7s have this magnetic frequency where you bring people to you, and it almost like pulls things out of them, but in integrity, because when they share with you, it's heart healing for them. So yeah, the 7s are magnets. We're here to heal our own hearts, heal people's hearts, and be very authentic. Oftentimes the 7s, they struggle with standing in their own authenticity when they're younger. Like, they don't want people seeing their vulnerabilities. They're protecting their heart. And so when you do enough healing and you feel that your heart is safe enough, then you feel like, okay, I can show up to the world as who I am and not have to mask or protect them, different things. Right. So I'm giving you like a high level overview, because again, yours is sitting in your karma. So the karma is always the most difficult thing to work through. Right. And then when you transmute it and you step into the positive, and I started with you with the positives, when you step it into the positive, that's how you show up to the world as the heart healing connector. You may have not been that way when you were a child.
Right.
Because again, this is the map of your entire life.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. And notice you also have this in your soul destiny. You have a 16-7. So the 7 in the soul destiny is a lot of what I just mentioned. Again, you really are here to bring people together. Like this is your overarching purpose. The 16 here, the 16-7s, they attract people from all walks of life. And because people find you very relatable, they find you down to earth, and they can connect with you like eye to eye. You know, you don't speak over people's heads, and people really appreciate this about you. So this makes you a great leader, and you have this ability to bridge heaven and earth for people.
Hmm. Yes, I resonate with that. I love that. It's so,
So
what's so cool is like, you're talking, you're explaining, you're like, you're giving me confirmation. Like it's just a confirmation for like, oh my gosh, that is me. That is why I'm so wanting to bring people together and, heal their hearts and share with them other people that can help too, all the time.
yeah. And seeing, this is what I mean. The biggest thing when people come to me, they receive validation, because most connected people already know what they're here to do. And they're either doing it in a big way or small, like they're already doing it in some way, or they have desire to do it and they haven't stepped into it yet. And, oftentimes I think when people think, well, what is my soul's purpose? And they think is this big secret magical thing that they just can't access. But in reality, the soul always knows its purpose. And so the
Right.
soul's always guiding us towards it, right? I mean, there's a reason that somebody goes to college and decides to major in nursing versus engineering. Like, like, I mean, the soul's
Right.
guiding
Exactly.
us
Yes.
always. So I find that most people receive the validation, and I want to be that empowering thing for them to really sort of push them off the edge to fly. Like, yes, this is what you came here to do. Now go do it. Or if you're already doing it, do it in a bigger way, because you
Right.
will be supported.
Right. Yeah, it makes me want to, like I love this podcast so much, and it was a knowing when I was 50. It was a voice in my head. I'm like, I'm just going to do this podcast. I don't know why. Maybe I'll find out. I don't know who's going to be on it or who's going to listen, but it's just it called me, and I know when things call me that my retreats called me.
Mhm.
It's like, and I always say, and I'm one to always say, when something's calling you, take the next step and keep moving forward, the breadcrumbs. But yeah, it's a knowing. And that's your soul knowing, right? Like that's
Absolutely. You just have to listen.
right. And
And
so
that's
many
what I
people
tell
don't.
people. Yeah, I always tell people, listen to the whispers of your soul. But my soul always told me, you're into mystical, esoteric things, like always. And here I was thinking, oh, that's just my hobby. Nobody cares about my hobby.
Right. Right.
So, and your podcasting, by the way, I want to show you, it's sitting in your physical goals. I'm going to circle. And for those that can't see, it's this frequency she's carrying, which is 21.3. And our physical goals usually speaks to our career. The 21.3s are oftentimes lawyers, advocates, actors, actresses, professors. They're here to express themselves, their voice, in a big way. This is
Huh.
not a small frequency either. So the 3 is a very creative vocal expression. So again, you telling me you have a podcast. I mean, obviously I'm on the podcast and I see your 21.3. I'm like, well, it's right there in your physical goals. Our physical goals is what gets us out of bed every morning, what we're
Yes.
excited to do. Right. And so for
Mm.
some people, it's not maybe their full career, but it's still their output of some sort, maybe their hobby or how they contribute.
Right. Oh, totally. I get excited every morning to get out of bed, especially like for you today, right? I'm like,
Oh,
oh my gosh, I get to see Gellyahnah today. Oh, I'm so excited to listen to it's just it just excites me.
thank you. Thank you. You're making my ego feel really good. My ego consciousness is kicking in. No, but thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's always wonderful to connect with like-minded people too.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah. Okay, now you have this other really I mean, there's so many cool things about your chart. So let's look at your physical talent, the 9-9. So, okay, for those that can't see, Ashley has 2 9s in her physical talent. The 9s are dragons. This is the
Oh,
most powerful frequency in the entire modality. The keyword is power. And so initially in life, you maybe experienced some disempowerment,
Mm-hmm.
where like your power was taken away from you. I'll give you examples of what I've seen with other clients, because this could be pretty extreme too, not as extreme, but I've seen it as neglect, abuse, bullying, attracting narcissists, disempowering life situations. Shows up a little bit differently for everybody, also depending where it sits. The fact that yours sits in your talent position literally means there's nothing in this life that you cannot accomplish.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I love
Because
it.
you have source energy, the creator, as like your propeller underneath you, like the wind beneath your wings, but you have God as the wind
Ah,
beneath your wings. Literally, it's like the nines, they're like God incarnate. You're so deeply connected. You have three deeply connected frequencies. This is one of them. But the way, again, the way that the energy flows on these charts, and for those that don't have a visual, this could be a little difficult to understand, but your talent position is what helps you work through your karma and reach your goals. And
hmm.
you have a dragon, which is like an ace card and a card of decks, right? And like it'll just trump anything, like the ace card. You have the dragon, and no, like it's been helping you work through your challenges your entire life.
Huh. So I picked that.
Yes, your soul picked that. Your soul said, okay, I'm going to, struggle with these things, but I'm also going to give myself the frequency to work through it. Now, if you've ever attracted narcissists, that's
Yes.
because dragons attract other dragons. So other dragons could be narcissistic
Okay.
because they're misusing their power, right? Because again, when you're this powerful, a big part of what you're working through with the nine is to step into your power, but use it with integrity. And so here's where you have people born with nines in their charts and they're out of integrity, but they have the power of the dragon.
Ah, got it.
And dragons attract other dragons. So then there's this power struggle between them.
Hmm. Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Are you taking it in? Should I
I
keep going?
am. Keep going.
Okay. All right. So, and again, I'm giving you a bit of a summary here, because we could be, digging into your chart for hours. So this is your triangle facing down, where again, the sevens, you're here to bring people together. With the nines, you're very powerful. Oh, and you're very catalytic for people. You're here to push everybody forward. Right. And I'm
Hmm.
sure, I mean, this is something like I could look at your website and say that you do that, but you've probably always been like that, where anybody
Yes.
that comes into your aura, you're always trying to push them forward. The people that are ready for it love you. The people that are not ready to move forward probably get very triggered by you.
Yes. 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 That is so, so true.
Yeah. And that's because of your nine right there and because of how it's positioned. Okay. So
Yes.
now let's look at the triangle that's facing up. I'm going to look at we're going to start with the 10-1 spiritual karma. And you have two 10-1s, by the way. So the 10-1s, these are service souls. And what that means is that you're here to be in service. This is an incarnation for you to come be in service and however you're needed, through love, light, your voice, bringing people together. I mean, you're already doing it.
Right.
You're very much in service. Sometimes the challenge for the 10-1s is because, and again, we're not like going super deep into your personal life here unless you want to share, but oftentimes with the 10-1s, they feel instability in childhood. And as they go through life, they don't always have stability. So part of how they discover stability is through career, making sure they have, nice things, because they feel like that's what, like the material things are what gives them stability. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's part of their path. But a big thing that they're here to realize is because they're here in service, their priorities shift. So they're now not focused on their own material or their own stability through material things. They actually need to focus on, wait, how can I be in service? Because the biggest joy that their soul gets is when they're making an impact.
Oh, huge. You could make me cry when you said that. It's like so, so true. That is my biggest joy. I can't even, I mean, it's the biggest besides my two children and my family. That is like huge to me. And I see it now with these retreats. I get the most joy. I used to have a day spa and I created that when I was 30 and out of nothing. And it just like watching people leave their facials or their massages and their days of beauty, just like I would come home singing. Like that was like, I loved it so much. And now I'm doing it again. It's like, oh, yes, that went to my soul.
Aw, I love that. Well, and that's not only is it in your karma, but then you have one in your spiritual goals. And at this point, your spiritual goals are very much activated. So you're right. For you, you have to be making an impact. Otherwise, your soul is not happy.
Yes. So true. Yes, it's so true. I have to. And this podcast helps me. It's given me the confidence to see kind of it's steering me. I didn't know where it was going, but I was just kept going and I can see. And now it's like, yeah, now I see it. Oh, that is so amazing. This is just amazing. Gellyahnah. Wow. Okay.
Oh, thank you. Well, and this is my joy. Like when I
Uh,
helping people find the validation or see they are on the right path, like that right there is everything. Because this isn't even a human to human experience. This is a soul to soul experience.
right.
Right. So
Wow.
that's my joy. So I love
Right.
that. Yeah. So the 10 ones, they're service souls here to be in service. And it's also a very powerful frequency, and they're natural healers. So you have natural healing and healing energy flowing through you. Again, people find stability within you, right? So again, the 10 ones, when they're younger, stability maybe eludes them, but they're stable for everybody else. And I'm just giving you a few key points. There's more. I don't know if you have any connection to Archangel Michael, but Archangel Michael comes through very powerfully with this frequency.
Huh.
And sometimes the 10-1 can show up as a wound with the masculine energy. So it could be a father wound, or it could be a wound within your own masculine energy. You're right, because we have feminine and masculine
Right.
within us, all of that. So again, in a one-on-one reading, we can go much deeper in all of these, but I'm just giving you some key points. But the main one is that you're a service soul. And the most important thing for you is that you're making an impact.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. And now the 22-4 spiritual talent. So I love this one for you. To have this frequency in a talent position. This is what I was referring to when I was speaking to you, being a multidimensional soul with vivid dreams that
Okay.
remembers
Right.
everything. And when you were asking me, so is a sliver of me here and another sliver of me there? Yes. And that's the case for a lot of us, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us. Again, every soul's journey is so different. The 22-4 in spiritual talents, I would almost be surprised if you didn't ask me that,
Oh, wow.
because that's how connected they are to their multidimensional nature. And they grasp it, they get it. They almost understand it intuitively, internally, maybe even better than they can express.
Mm-hmm.
They sort of grasp it. So,
And I do ask that question a lot. And now that you're saying that, because I'm so interested in dreams because mine are so vivid. And I feel like, gosh, am I going somewhere? And when Dolores Cannon always says, your soul doesn't need to sleep. So it goes. So I'm like, okay, then I must be going.
yeah, you really are. And the thing is, all of us do, but
Right.
not all of us remember. The
Right.
22-4 with the 10-1 combination, like whenever I see this combination in somebody's chart, I know they have vivid dreams. It's like 98% of them do. The other 2% tell me they don't. And I don't know why that is. I haven't figured it out, but 98% of them do.
Huh.
So yeah, you are traveling, you are going places. The 22-4, this is also the frequency of abundance. Okay, so you're here to create immense abundance for yourself. And when I say abundance, it could be monetary, but it's also love, money, relationships, friendships, like anything you want. You basically have this incredible ability to tap into the abundance of the universe.
I love that. Just even that, when people get to hear that, you just realize that we always have what we need when we need it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this 4 in particular really taught you that lesson, because the 4, do you see how it's kind of up and down, up and down?
Yes.
So as they go through life, they sort of go through this I have things, I don't have things. I have things, I don't. It's this roller coaster. They're like, oh my gosh. And it's like right before they're about to hit rock bottom, something happens and
Totally.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So the
Huh.
key word for four is trust. So you've had to really learn to trust the
Yes.
universe and that you are very supported, because oftentimes people with this frequency, they actually feel scarcity when they're younger. Like they feel like they don't have enough time, money, love, whatever. And sometimes it will show up as an abandonment wound as well. So again, depending on, what each person's life journey has been, but they're here to learn to trust that the universe will always have their back.
So when you say that abandonment wounds, just for an example, so because my soul chose that 22-4, I had abandonment issues and I'm here to heal them. What do you mean?
Well, the first question is, do you feel that you've had any themes of abandonment?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So then, yes, that was part of what your soul wanted to experience.
Okay.
To heal it. Because what is abandonment? It feels like when somebody left us and now we don't have.
Right.
Right. And I mean, that's, kind of a black and white way to say it. I mean, there's more, but what you're here to learn is you were actually never abandoned, because the creator, God, the one that has your back in all the ways, has been with you and is constantly with you and is guiding you and is giving you all the things that you need. The fours have a very difficult time trusting because they've been abandoned. But this is part of what you're here to learn, is the trust and that you are supported.
Right. And it is, I always have that in my mind because I know, just with life experience, like those up and downs, like I know when I get to that bottom, I know I'm trusting because I know it's coming back up, and it always does.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always one to tell people, like, just trust. I know, I promise you, you're gonna come back up. I know
Yeah.
that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I can give you an example with me. I have a 4-4 in my physical talents. And like, how I told you I got on TikTok and it just kept going viral and that account blew me up. Well, one day TikTok shadow banned me.
Huh.
And that was the end of that account. And that's it. And it nothing was happening on it, because when you get shadow banned, you didn't get so that was my entire business.
Wow.
In one day shut down. And I kept contacting them. And I mean, TikTok is TikTok. They don't care. They're like, you're not shadow banned. And I'm like, no, I have a business account. I can see I'm not going on the feed. So
Uh,
it was kind of a scary thing, because remember, I already sold my other company. I was full on in this business and it got shut down. And boy, did I have to trust that everything would be okay.
right.
And because I was booked out maybe 8 months in advance. So as I got closer to those the final bookings, I was like, I guess I'm just going to dive full into my podcast and I'm going to start my podcast and, that'll be the thing. But around that time, I got another phone specifically for TikTok because I couldn't get a new account going on my old phone. They track. Anyways, I got a new phone and I kept posting. And finally, I had a video go viral and that account blew up again right before I was done with my, bookings from the other account. So there wasn't even a gap in
Wow.
between, but it was literally to that last week.
Huh.
Right. And so and this is a silly example almost, but is that up and down, up and down. And I had to trust that something would happen. And now TikTok doesn't blow up the way it does anyways. Well, at least for me, I don't know. And I was thinking, great, again, I get to go to my podcast. The moment I think it, my Instagram blew up.
Oh my gosh.
So as of December 1st in the morning, I had 8,000 followers. I posted a video on December 1st. And right now, I think I'm at 276,000 followers.
Oh my God.
We're talking from this December.
Wow.
To
That's crazy.
now. So, and this is where, it's like I'm watching my own energy. And again, I'm sharing this with people because one is the trust. Like I already know this is now this up and down cycle.
Right.
Don't even, okay, if it's not Instagram or TikTok, I don't know, maybe it's YouTube Shorts next. Who knows? I don't know.
Right.
It's something.
Exactly.
And then is that 12-3 energy that I have that and not just me, but other people have it in their charts too. We're not meant to do small things. They will blow up. And sometimes it's just quiet time and it's meant to be quiet time. and then it's go time.
Right. And so you learn not to stress and you just trust that little quiet time that's coming. The big stuff's coming. Yeah.
I have learned to enjoy the quiet time because it doesn't last.
Well, I know you're booked up forever. Oh, anything else on here before we stop sharing the screen? Do you want to elaborate on anything?
So, I mean, we covered, in the quick summary, we covered all the things because we already talked about your soul destiny. Yeah, we talked about your 10 ones. Yeah. So in short, you are a service soul who's here. You're here to be a healer, right? The 10 ones are natural healers. The 7 sevens are heart healers. You're meant to work with people. You're meant to use your voice, and you're very, very connected to the divine, which again, you already know. I mean, I feel like I'm just telling you all the things you already know about yourself. I'm just showing you where it's in your chart and why things maybe played out the way that they did.
Oh, I love that. I want to ask you just a couple more questions. Is
Of
that okay?
course. Yeah.
You want to unshare so we can
Oh,
look at each
yes,
other?
yes, yes.
I was, while we were talking, I was thinking, to get your children's, for me to get the girls' soul contracts, like you've done your daughter's name is Eris? Eris.
Eris.
Yes. Beautiful.
Thank you.
And so the benefit of that is you're seeing what they chose and why they chose you.
You don't necessarily see the why. What you see is your energetic connections. So for instance, I'll tell you what I'm able to see. When I'm looking at 2 charts side by side, I'm able to see the karmic connections. I'm able to see the bonds, and I'm able to see the clashes. So when a parent comes into me and they says, okay, I love my child, but I just cannot. And I pull up their charts and I see that they have 2 dragons going at it. I can show them that. I'm like, well, it's a power struggle between you two.
Huh.
Right. And so that's, and a clash is an end all be all. I mean, the more conscious you are, the more you can work through the clash. Like for you as an example, I have a clash with my daughter. We have 6s in the same exact position in our physical goals. And so that creates a clash between us. So what does that mean? I mean, it means a lot of things. And by the way, I mean, we obviously, she's 11. We have a wonderful relationship, but she just knows, because the 6 also, it's the Taurus and it's about conflict. And so she knows how to sort of get under my skin in a way that, and again, we can say this for most kids and parent relationships, but for her, it's so particular where she touches me that nobody else can touch me. And it's on this 6 frequency of like, we like to create, but we create differently, right? Because we're both creators. That's the 6 frequency, but we want to do differently. And so I'm like, I want to do it this way, and she wants to do it that way. And I'm giving you small things. Obviously, there could be bigger things, right? But there's, and so what she's pushing on is my unhealed wound, right? And so every time I get triggered by her, I know I need to go deeper into my healing, because that's the place where I haven't healed yet. So the clash is going to show the unhealed wounds, because if I was fully healed in that area, she wouldn't be triggering that way.
Got it.
Yeah.
So to even understand it in that way, because I know that just by when oh, you can do that all day long, that's not going to bug me anymore. That's amazing. I'm free. Right.
Yes.
But to understand that with that chart and to understand that's why, that's just amazing. It's so powerful.
It is. I think it's incredibly powerful for people to have their children's charts. But the thing is, before you can look at your children's, you really have to understand your own. Like it's difficult to come to me and say, okay, read my whole family and tell me everything in 1 hour. Like that's just a lot to process.
Right.
You're right. I mean, for me, I can actually look at it and spit it out, but that's for the person to understand and grasp it, because you really have to understand your own chart first. But I do think it's an incredible tool for parents to have their children's chart to understand how to guide them better. So again, looking at my daughter's chart, she's an artist. She is here to create and be an artist. And I mean, I don't quite know what that means, but she's so creative. I have an entire room in the house dedicated to her creations, because otherwise it'd be all over my house and that would drive me crazy.
Right.
But the paint, the slime, the constant little shot, she's always creating and making something. And that is literally her soul destiny. She's here for the creative force of God to come through her. And she's just this vessel where she's just expressing God's creativity through her.
Huh. When you're like in a public area, do you connect? Like, are you really, can you turn that off? Or are you looking at someone you've come in contact with and or start talking and you're like, oh my gosh, they're this, I bet this is their energy.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So most of the time it's off because I don't walk around being open. And also I'm so ungrounded. I'm like in my head or somewhere else most of the time. I'm like not present.
Oh, funny.
Which is, I don't know that that's a good thing, but I am just not there scanning people. I'm wherever I am. If and when someone's talking to me, if there's a reason for me to tune into something, I might, but otherwise I don't, because one, it's my energy. Two, it's, violating to just start reading somebody and they may not
Right.
even want, I mean, so no, I don't engage in that. I mean, I will say something that my friends probably would say and get irritated about when I'm watching reality TV or a show or something. I'm breaking down all the frequencies. I'm like, that one's an 8, that one's an 8, that one has this, that one has that. So much so to the point where they'll say something, oh, is that my 12-3? Is that my 10-1?
Oh, funny.
So with my friends, I'll do that. But with strangers, it's, not really appropriate, I think.
You do is it divine healing? What is the healing modality that you use along with the soul contracts?
Yeah, so I used to practice divine healing. I now practice something called connecting with the creator through prayers of the soul. And it's very powerful energy work where we directly connect to the creator source energy and everything gets unified through the soul, right? So I'm a soul girl. Everything I do is with the soul. So the creator's souls comes down to encompass our soul, and everything that's displaced and is out of alignment gets scooped up and placed into the heart chakra. So it's a full, complete realignment. One of these, like a full session, is an hour and a half. And most people have a supernatural experience. They go into a trance-like state. They see crazy colors. It really depends on your sensitivity. Some people get messages, some people get visions. There's a lot of cool supernatural things that are happening. And I've come to find out that I used to do this work when I was part of the Essenes. Right. I mean, you
Ah,
mentioned Dolores Cannon, so you're probably
yes.
familiar. Okay. So I was a part of that group that, living out in the desert and doing. And so in one of my downloads, I was told you used to do this work when you were with the Essenes. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. So whenever I rediscover work I've done, my soul already knows it. And so that's why when I discovered this work, clearly I've done this in past lives. My
Right.
soul knew. That's why I had that physical experience. When I discovered this healing modality that I just told you about, my soul already knew. It was just, I was already attuned to it. It was just a reawakening.
Right.
Right. So
Remembering.
yeah. Yeah. So that's the energy work that I do.
And when you do that with someone, is it just like a hypnosis? Are you like walking through a visualization?
It's not a hypnosis. What I do is and I only do these in group sessions. I don't do them one-on-one at the
Okay.
moment, again, just because I am booked out so far, but I host monthly group sessions. And the groups are very powerful. It is not at all take away from the experience with you. In fact, for some people, it's more powerful because you're being
Mhm.
support. Like, let's say you're really tired, but everyone else in the group,
Right.
so it actually lifts you up. And I mean, I've had like 70 to 80 people on the calls
Oh,
from all over
wow.
the world. Yeah, so it's very mystical, supernatural. What I do is I create a recording, because I'll do different themes each month. So our theme a few months ago was healing our karma to elevate our soul. Our theme last month was on elevating out of depression. I don't know what the theme this month is going to be. Usually I get a download and then I create it and, put music to it, but it's not a guided meditation and it's not a hypnosis. The only reason I record words is so that people don't fall asleep. And most people need something to listen to. We could literally sit in silence the entire time.
Huh.
I don't say a word and the energy will come through and people will feel it.
Wow. When is that? I want to go.
Yeah, you should come. It's my next one is June 16th. I always do them on Sundays, June
Okay.
16th.
Oh, good. And you just sign up on your website.
Of course. Yeah. I can email you. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Gellyahnah, this has been so fun. I could sit here all day, and I have pretty much.
I
What,
love it.
so, oh, it's just, it's like um, you just open, people are going to listen to this and just be like, wow, there's so much more to my life, like why I'm here. There's, we all know we have a purpose. A lot of people don't are searching for that. But when you see that you really picked that, all those little numbers that you picked your name, and this is all, and people take life too seriously, right? I always say that.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
just go follow your joy. Find something you love and just keep picking the breadcrumbs up and going, because you're going to find
Yes.
that, right? Your soul's going to recognize it.
Absolutely. If you're going to take anything seriously, take your soul seriously,
Right. I
not
love
life.
that.
Take your soul seriously because your soul will never misguide you.
No. And it's like for me, now that I know my chart and I want everyone to know this,
Mhm.
I want to shout it to the rooftops. It's like I want people to get like just, that's that you just follow your soul. It knows.
It does.
And
It
that's when
really
you
does.
uncover your magic.
Yes.
So how can we find you? Tell everybody all the fun things, and that your wait list is they can sign up for your wait list, but other options to do this. Maybe do
Yes.
that. That's a better.
Yes. Absolutely. We have other options. So the best way to find me is on Instagram. I am soul_contracts_practitioner. And when you start putting in soul contracts, I'll come up. Gellyahnah is the name. And that's where majority of my content is. And through the link in my bio in there, I have all the things. The first one is the digital soul contract reading. And this is the most popular product that people will purchase. You get your chart and you get access to videos that explain every single frequency in your chart in detail. And if you look at my testimonials, I mean, people have the most insane testimonials from just that right there.
Right.
So, and if that product has been around for 3 years, it does, meaning like it's like people love it, is what I'm trying to say. If it didn't work, I wouldn't have it out there.
Right.
If people do want to have a reading with me, I do have a waiting list because I am scheduled out for this entire year. But again, there's also a link for that in the bio where they can get on the waiting list, or they can schedule with one of my mentees. And if people don't have Instagram, my website is yoursoulscontract.com. So yoursoulscontract.com.
Do you see yourself bringing on more mentees as you grow?
I do. Yeah, I do actually see that, especially because I'm stepping into training. And so like we said, we said this before recording, but I have a class coming up in June where I'm teaching people how to go deeper into their own charts. But I'm also working on getting certified to teach practitioners in the future.
Oh, yeah.
So
I can see you just building this whole team.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's all in the future. But on my birthday, I did, a healing session. And what came through was, please pace yourself. I'm moving faster than my soul wants to move because, my business entrepreneurial mind sees the vision. But the thing is, for me, like all the people that engage with me on Instagram, and when you purchase one of my digital readings, even if we don't interact, it's a piece of my soul. It's a piece of my light. And so it becomes overwhelming for my soul. And so the message I received was pace yourself, because the soul was like, okay, like let's calm down for a moment. So yeah.
Neat. I love it. Oh, I've just loved meeting you and sharing this time together. And now I can't wait to share you with my world and see you blow up more.
I am so honored. It was such a pleasure, Ashley.
Oh, thank you so much.